Your brain is sabotaging your peak performance right now, not as a metaphor, as a biological fact. The organ you have spent years educating, sharpening, and trusting is running a program from 200,000 years ago, and it is actively working against you the moment you need it most. If you have ever walked into a boardroom, a stage, a camera, a high-stakes conversation and felt your mouth go dry, your thoughts scatter, and your carefully prepared mind just vanish, you already know exactly what I'm about to explain. That problem has a 4-minute solution. Not a philosophy, not a lifestyle, a precise neuroscience-backed biological sequence that resets your nervous system in 240 seconds flat. And we are going through every second of it today. Before we go anywhere, I need you to do one thing with me. Take one breath right now, wherever you are. In through your nose and out. That breath you just took, that is not just air. In neuroscience, that single breath is the only conscious access point you have into a system your brain normally runs entirely on autopilot. There is a philosophy I come back to every time I sit with a high performer who is struggling, someone running a company, leading a team, standing in front of a camera, wondering why their brain will not cooperate. We take the breath so we can grow the life. That is the mind-take creed. And it sounds simple, deceptively simple, because the most precise things often do. The breath is the one biological lever you can reach with your own hands, and when you learn to pull it deliberately, at the right moment, in the right way, you do not just feel calmer, you literally change the chemistry running inside your skull. That's what today is about. Not coping, not surviving, not managing your anxiety. Growing your performance by taking the one thing most people overlook. I'm Dr. Silas Kincaid, and this is your Reset. Before we go into the science, here's the single most important thing to understand. You cannot think your way out of this, but in 4 minutes, you can physically override it. That is what we are building toward. The sequence is coming in about 8 minutes. Everything before it is the reason it works. Let me paint you a scene. It's a Tuesday morning in 2026, 3 minutes away from the most important Zoom call of your quarter, a funding pitch, a performance review, a sales close, a client you have been chasing for 8 months. You know your material cold, you've rehearsed it, you've slept, and then your heart spikes, your chest locks, your palms go damp, and a voice in the back of your skull starts whispering, "What if you blank? What if they see through you? What if this is the one you blow?" By the time you're on that call, something is off. Words come slower, ideas feel blurry. Your confidence, the one you absolutely had 20 minutes ago, has somehow just evaporated. What just happened to you? Your amygdala hijacked your brain. Here's what that means in plain language. Your amygdala, a small almond-shaped structure buried deep inside your brain, is your threat detection system. One job, keep you alive. And it does that job extraordinarily well. The problem is it was calibrated for a world that no longer exists. 200,000 years ago, the threats your amygdala was built for were real. Physical, a lion, a rival, a fire. The amygdala would detect danger and within milliseconds commandeer your entire nervous system, flood your body with cortisol and adrenaline, narrow your vision, and redirect blood away from your prefrontal cortex straight to your arms and legs. Fight or flight. A breathtakingly elegant survival machine. But here's the glitch. Your amygdala cannot distinguish between a predator on the African savanna and an investor on a Zoom call. It reads that spike of dread before your high-stakes pitch the exact same way it reads a charging lion, and it responds identically. It shuts your prefrontal cortex down, the part responsible for clear thinking, nuanced language, creative problem-solving, confident self-expression. Offline, throttled, blood-starved. That's why your best thinking abandons you at the exact moment you need it most. And this is not a personal failure. It's not weakness. It's ancient hardware running in a modern world. Know the 3 warning signals. Catching the cascade early is half the solution. Signal 1. Your breathing moves from belly to chest. Chest breathing is your body's biological SOS. It tells your nervous system that threat is near. Signal 2, your heart rate becomes erratic or hyper-present. You feel it in your throat, your ears, your chest. Signal 3, cognitive narrowing. The same thought starts looping. You can't reach your full range of ideas, just the fear cycling. These 3 together mean the cascade has started, and once it's in full swing, willpower alone cannot stop it. You cannot decide to be calm. But you can interrupt the cascade at the biological level, and that's exactly what happens in 4 minutes. I want to check in for 1 second. If you recognize those 3 signals in yourself, that's actually good news. Awareness is the first activation point of the sequence we're about to build. The next section is the science of why 4 minutes works. Once you understand the mechanism, you'll never doubt this again. Here's the single most important question every high performer asks when they hear this for the first time. Why 4 minutes, not 4 seconds or 40 minutes? The answer lives entirely in your physiology. When your amygdala fires, cortisol releases into your bloodstream. That cortisol has a metabolic half-life, a specific window your body needs to begin clearing the stress chemistry already in circulation. At the same time, your respiratory rate, heart rate, and blood pressure have begun escalating. Each of these systems has what physiologists call a recovery latency, a minimum time it needs with the right input before it begins resetting. 4 minutes. 240 seconds flat. Not arbitrary, it's the window confirmed across cardiac and respiratory physiology, where a deliberate, specific breathing pattern can meaningfully shift your autonomic balance from sympathetic dominance, that's your fight or flight state, to parasympathetic activation, that's your rest and perform state. 4 minutes. Long enough to move the needle in your brain chemistry, short enough to use before any meeting, any pitch, any moment that matters. Now, I need to be direct about something because this is where most guides fail the high performer. This is not meditation. When a high performer hears breathing exercise, their eyes glaze over. They think, tried that, breathed in, breathed out, and felt nothing. I hear this constantly. What I'm describing is neurochemically specific. It's not relaxation, not mindfulness in the traditional sense. It's nervous system manipulation. And the tool we're using is the vagus nerve. Your vagus nerve is the longest cranial nerve in your body. It runs from your brainstem, wraps around your heart, descends through your lungs, and connects to nearly every major organ. Its job, the communication superhighway between your brain and body, carrying signals in both directions. Most people assume the brain tells the body what to do, but 80% of vagal nerve fibers run from body to brain, not the other way.
That means the signals your body sends through your breath, your heart rate, your gut are constantly influencing what your brain believes about your safety. Breathe shallow and fast. Body signals brain. Danger. Breathe slow, deep, extended exhale. Body signals brain. Safe. Stand down. That is vagal tone activation, the fastest neurological shortcut to shutting the amygdala's alarm system off. But the breathing alone, and this is critical, is not enough for high-performance use. You need to stack it, because anxiety at this level operates across 3 simultaneous layers: your nervous system chemistry, your visual threat processing, and your cognitive rumination loop. You need a sequence that addresses all 3 at once. That sequence takes 4 minutes. Right, you have the why. Here comes the what. 3 precise components. I will walk through each one, give you the exact mechanism, and give you the protocol. This is the part you save. This is the part you use before the next hard thing. Specific. 3 components. Each targets a different layer of the cascade. Together, they complete the off switch. Component 1, the 4-7-8 diaphragmatic activation. The moment the cascade starts, or the moment you know something high stakes is 4 minutes away, begin here. Inhale through your nose for 4 counts, not your chest, your belly. Feel your abdomen expand first, rib cage second. Diaphragmatic breathing directly engages your parasympathetic nervous system through stretch receptors in the diaphragm.
Hold for 7 counts. You want to skip this. Do not skip this. The hold increases intrathoracic pressure and triggers the Ehring-Brauer reflex, a neurological reset signal sent from your lungs directly to your brainstem. Exhale for 8 counts, longer than the inhale. This is the critical piece. A longer exhale forces your heart rate to slow, respiratory sinus arrhythmia, and sends a safety signal to your amygdala that cortisol cannot override. 3 full cycles, 60 to 90 seconds. Your blood pressure is already shifting. Your heart rate is already decelerating. Not imagined. Physiology. Foundation set. Build. Component 2, the peripheral vision unlock. Here is something almost no one tells high performers. Your amygdala is directly coupled to your visual system. When threat activates, your visual field literally narrows. Tunnel vision, biological feature. In a real emergency, you only want to see what is directly in front of you. But tunnel vision also feeds the amygdala. A loop, narrow focus, brain reads narrowed vision as threat, amygdala intensifies the response. Break it physically. While continuing your breath, soften your gaze. Stop focusing on any single point. Let your peripheral field expand. Become aware of what sits at the far edges of your vision. The walls, the ceiling, the edges of the space around you. Panoramic vision, one of the only visual inputs that directly signals safety to the amygdala. Your brain cannot sustain a full threat response while processing an open, expansive visual field. They are neurologically incompatible. 30 to 45 seconds. Shoulders drop, jaw unclenches. The cycling of anxious thoughts begins to quiet. That is your nervous system updating its assessment. Scan complete, no danger, stand down. Third, the cognitive loop, the what if that keeps you stuck in imagined futures. Your brain cannot simultaneously process immediate physical sensation and abstract future catastrophe. They compete for the same attentional resources. While still breathing and holding your soft gaze, in sequence, name 5 things you can physically feel right now. Not think about, feel. The pressure of the chair against your thighs, the air temperature on your forearm, the texture you are touching, the weight of your feet. Name 3 sounds you can actually hear in this moment: the ventilation hum, the ambient room noise, your own breath. Then 1 deliberate sensation. Press your feet slightly harder into the floor. Feel the ground push back. This re-anchors your attentional resources in the present. Your prefrontal cortex, the part the amygdala was suppressing, uses concrete sensory input to come back online. You are manually rebooting your own thinking. 3 components, under 4 minutes. Breathing, vision, sensation. That's your off switch. I want you to sit with that for just a moment. You now have a sequence that no amount of willpower, no amount of just push through it ever gave you access to. The next part is where we go from surviving the moment to owning it. Now, here's where we stop surviving and start performing. Because calm is not the goal. Calm is only the baseline. The goal is flow. Flow is the state where your cognitive resources are fully online, your performance is automatic, your decision-making is rapid and precise, and the self-consciousness that normally kills performance is completely absent. Athletes call it the zone. Performers call it being on. Neuroscientists call it transient hypofrontality, the self-monitoring, self-doubting, self-editing regions of your brain temporarily quiet, and pure execution takes over. And here's the part that genuinely moves me, even after years of studying this. After your 4-minute reset, your nervous system is not just less stressed, it's actively primed. The cortisol is clearing, your prefrontal cortex is back online, your neurochemical environment is closer to optimal performance than it has been all morning. You are in that exact moment at the most neurologically available you have been all day. That's not recovery, that's a launch pad. The micro-visualization bridge. 30 seconds, just 30. See yourself in the first 30 seconds of the moment ahead. Not a general sense of doing well, specific. The handshake, the first sentence, the first answer, the precise moment you begin. Make it tactile. Feel the room. Feel the confidence already in your voice. See it flowing exactly as your best self knows it can. This is not wishful thinking. When you vividly visualize an action, your motor cortex, your sensory cortex, and your emotional processing centers fire in patterns nearly identical to actually performing it. You walk in having already succeeded once at the neurological level. The anchor. Here's the most powerful long-term tool in the entire sequence. After your reset and your visualization, in this exact moment of peak readiness, create a physical anchor. Press the tip of your thumb and your index finger together. Apply firm, deliberate pressure. Hold for 5 seconds. Feel the calm, the clarity, the readiness alive in your body right now. Then release. You're building a conditioned stimulus. Each time you run this sequence, each time you genuinely feel ready and grounded, you press that same gesture. And then something remarkable starts to happen. The gesture alone begins to call the state forward. You'll be able to walk into any room, any stakes, any pressure. Press your thumb and index finger together for 3 seconds and trigger this neurochemical shift on command. Without anyone noticing, without any ritual, without any warning. That's performance at a different level entirely. That anchor is the reason I still teach this after everything I've studied and seen.
Because the first time it truly works, when you're standing in the hardest moment you have had all year and you press that gesture and the ground comes back under your feet, you will never forget it. Here's how to make sure that happens every time. A technique you use once is interesting. A technique you use daily is transformative. Here's how the high performers I work with integrate this into real life and permanently lower their baseline. The morning baseline set. Before a single notification, before your inbox, before any external input lands on your nervous system, run one full reset cycle. 3 rounds of 7-4-8 breathing, 30 seconds of soft gaze, 30 seconds of sensory grounding. You do not have to feel anxious to do this. In the morning, you may feel completely fine. Do it anyway. You are preloading vagal tone before the day stacks its demands on your system. Each morning reset lowers your baseline cortisol, the ambient stress chemistry your body carries before any specific trigger arrives. Over time, the trigger that used to send you into a full cascade now produces only a mild activation, one your thinking brain can manage in real time without losing control. You are physically rewiring your threat response, week by week. The discrete public reset. I know what some of you are thinking. This sounds great in a quiet room, but I cannot breathe dramatically in the middle of a conference table. You do not have to. Once practiced, the entire sequence runs almost invisibly. Feet flat on the floor at the conference table, sensory ground. Eyes open and sauced, peripheral unlock, slow nasal breathing. Imperceptible across the table. No ritual, no performance, nobody knows. You can run a partial reset in 60 seconds in a bathroom, an elevator, a parking lot. Even one component alone, just the breathing, just the soft gaze, starts moving the needle. When the cascade has already started. Sometimes you will not have 4 minutes. You will already be mid-cascade. One thing. Prioritize the exhale. Extend your exhale right now in the middle of the moment. Even if your inhale is a short, anxious 2 count, exhale for 4, then 6. Let it lengthen. Minimum effective dose. Not a full reset, but it interrupts the acceleration of the cascade, gives your thinking brain enough room, quite literally, to begin coming back online. Then you anchor. Thumb and index. The conditioned state begins to surface, and you stay in the room. I want to leave you with something that took me a long time to fully accept, both as a researcher and as someone who has stood in some genuinely terrifying rooms.
High-performance anxiety is not a character flaw. It's not weakness. It's not evidence that you don't belong. It's not imposter syndrome, though it often gets mislabeled that way. It is ancient biological hardware running in a world it was never built for. The compression of 2026, the visibility, the pace, the stakes that arrive faster than any generation before yours ever faced. You are performing in conditions that no evolutionary pressure prepared your brain to handle. You are not broken. Your brain is just running the wrong program for the situation. And now you have the override. 4 minutes, 3 components, 1 sequence. We take the breath, because that's the one lever we can actually reach, and we grow the life, because what you do after that breath, the clarity you access, the voice that comes out, the way your actual self sounds, the decisions you make without fear clouding the signal, that changes the trajectory, not of one meeting, of a career, of a life. I want you to use this today, not when you have perfect silence, not when conditions are ideal. Today, before the next hard thing on your schedule. And when it works, when you walk into that room and you feel the ground beneath you, and your thoughts are clear, and your voice carries the weight of someone who genuinely belongs in that room, notice something. Notice that the version of you that just walked in, that's not a performance. That's you, with the interference removed. Now, hit subscribe if you want to know what happens in the moments after the reset, when you're inside the high-performance state and you need to sustain and sharpen it. The next video covers exactly that. It's the most counterintuitive thing I've found in 15 years of performance neuroscience. The one thing elite performers do in the middle of pressure that most people believe would destroy their focus. It's already cued. The thumbnail's right there. Take one breath first and grow the life. I'm Dr. Silas Kincaid. I'll see you in the next one.